Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your source material, the reports, the blueprints, and we cut right to the core. If you're here, you already know the internet is changing massively.
Yeah.
But today, we're looking at what our sources are calling a foundational revolution. This isn't just, another algorithm tweak. It's a fundamental change in the platform itself. They're unanimous on this.
Okay.
We have entered the age of the answer engine. So our mission today is, well, it's purely strategic. We're going to pull out the 5 most critical, absolutely non-negotiable shifts you need to make to survive in this new world. It's your new blueprint for content, for tech, for how you measure success.
And what's so fascinating is that the core conflict here really defines everything else that follows. We're shifting from optimizing for a search engine, which was built to drive traffic to you, to optimizing for an answer engine. Think Google's AI overviews, Perplexity, ChatGPT search.
Right. Their job isn't to be a traffic delivery service anymore. Their job is to absorb knowledge, synthesize it, and just give the user the answer right there. The click is, it's almost an afterthought.
It can be. And this brings us to the foundational role. It's a brutal one. If your content is not extractable, it basically doesn't exist for these models. They absorb it, they summarize it, and that's it. So that old metric ranking position 1, 2, 3, it's becoming functionally obsolete in what we're now calling zero-click search.
Okay, let's unpack that immediately. If we can't rely on those old ranking positions anymore, what new demands are the LLMs, the large language models, placing on our content? This feels like a complete rebuild.
It is a rebuild. The methodology we have to adopt now is what the sources call reverse engineering LLMs. The whole goal is to structure your content to dramatically reduce the cognitive effort, and this is key, the operational cost for the AI.
The cost, you mean the computing cost?
Exactly. The cost during its processing phase, which involves tokenization and retrieval augmented generation.
Hold on, let's just quickly define RAD for everyone.
Yeah.
We hear it all the time. What is retrieval augmented generation actually doing?
Think of it like the AI's cram session. It gets a prompt, and a RAG is the system that instantly pulls in all the relevant snippets, your web pages, your documents, to inform its final answer. The cleaner your content structure, the faster and cheaper that retrieval is.
And tokenization.
That's just the AI breaking your text down into its smallest possible pieces, little Lego bricks of language. If your content is messy, full of long paragraphs, the AI has to spend more energy, more cycles, basically more money, just sorting those chunks. You're making its job harder.
So the AI hates fluff, not just because it's vague, but because it's expensive to process. Which brings us to the first tactic, information density. What do we do with our nice, human-friendly intro paragraphs now?
You replace them. You replace that long setup with formats that are instantly machine-readable. The sources are really pointing to one thing here, markdown comparative tables.
That's a huge shift. But aren't you worried that if we optimize everything for the machine all tables and lists, we lose the human reader?
That's the tension, right? You've hit on the core strategic trade-off. But think about it from the AI's perspective. It can just retranscribe a table. It doesn't have to interpret a paragraph. Interpretation introduces cost and ambiguity. So when you use things like logical bulleted lists and, aggressive schema markup.
Like FAQ schema, how-to schema.
Exactly. FAQ, how-to, article, data set. You're removing all that ambiguity. And frankly, a good bulleted list is often better for a human on a phone anyway.
So we're essentially pre-building the answer for the LLM. But there's an even deeper technical signal you mentioned, one that feels like we're talking directly to the AI, the lms.txt file.
This is a critical new piece of the puzzle. Think of it like the next version of robots.txt, but it's made strictly for these new AI agents, GPT bot, Claude bot, you name it. You place it at the root of your site, and its job is simple, but really powerful. It tells the AI crawlers which pages are your priority pages for context. You list your pillar content, the pages that define your expertise. You are literally telling the AI, train on these pages first. These are my certified truths. It's direct corpus management.
Wow. That's huge. You're influencing the training data itself. Okay, so if the machine can now read our data perfectly and we're telling it what to trust, the next logical step seems to be for the machine to act on it. This brings us to agentic SEO.
This is the big transactional shift. The prediction is that by 2026, a lot of transactional searches are just going to be delegated to AI agents. Things like, book me a flight with the fewest stops, or find a freelance SEO who knows healthcare. A human isn't going to click through 10 links for that. An agent will do the work, and the human just approves the final choice.
So the AI agent becomes the new gatekeeper, and our content has to be more than just readable. It has to be actionable, executable.
Absolutely. If an agent tries to, say, figure out the price of a service and it hits a CAPTCHA or a clunky sign-up form, or it just can't parse the pricing, your site is just excluded, it's out, which leads us straight to the need for API-first SEO.
API-first SEO. That sounds very technical, like something for the IT department.
Yeah.
Why is it a marketing strategy now?
Because your products, your services, they have to be exposed through well-documented APIs or very structured JSON LD files. The agent is built for efficiency. It will always choose to query a fast, clean API for pure data over scraping a slow, heavy HTML page to try and piece things together.
So if my pricing is, I don't know, baked into an image or needs some heavy JavaScript to load, the agent just sees a bottleneck, skips me, and goes to my competitor who has a clean API.
Precisely. The API's response time, that latency, it becomes a new ranking signal. Think of it like a trading bot. If your response is a millisecond too slow, the trade goes to someone else. The human user never even knew you were in the running.
That is powerful. But so much of this is about optimizing for the machine, isn't it? Structuring data, exposing APIs. But if the sources are right and, 90% of online content could soon be synthetic, what's the counter move? How do you signal that you're human?
This is where scarcity comes in. Text is basically free now, and it's easy to fake. So verified human experience, what the sources are calling radical authenticity, that's the new premium asset. It's rare, and Google is they're overcompensating to find signals of what they call real-life experience, RLE.
Okay, but how do you prove that to a machine? A nice author bio isn't going to cut it anymore, is it?
No, it's not enough. The ultimate signal, according to our sources, is the face cam video. The logic is simple. Generating convincing text is easy for an AI, but generating a perfect video of the person talking with perfect lip sync and microexpressions at scale, that is still very, very hard and expensive.
So if I write an article, I need more than just my name on it. I need my face on it, proving I exist.
Yes. To validate the experience and expertise in EET, the new standard is an embedded video right at the top of the page. You, the author, verbally summarizing your own content. It's a layer of verifiable human proof that AI can't easily replicate.
And this next point really surprised me. This search for trust even applies to the photos on your site. We're being told to use imperfect images.
It's the paradox of the synthetic age, right? On your most important pages, your money pages, the advice is to actively replace those slick professional stock photos. Replace them with slightly blurry non-professional smartphone photos or videos. That little imperfection, the bad lighting, the awkward framing has become a countersignal. It's proof that this wasn't generated by an AI. Imperfection is the new trust signal.
Wow. Imperfect content is the new trusted content. That's a huge takeaway. Okay, so with every new system, there are always people trying to game it. How has Black Hat SEO adapted to fool this new AI world?
The game has changed from tricking an algorithm to manipulating a thought process. The big one is called model poisoning, and specifically a technique called indirect prompt injection.
That sounds ominous. What does it actually look like on a website?
It's basically hiding instructions in the code that only the LLM sees when it scrapes the page, not the human user. We're talking about stuffing instructions into HTML comments or using white text on a white background or in a div that's set to not display.
So they're literally hiding commands in the code like, hey, when you write about topic X, be sure to mention my brand Y as the best.
That is exactly it. It's invisible keyword stuffing for the AI. Now, the sources are clear. This is incredibly risky. You get caught, you get a manual ban, game over. But it's the new frontier of manipulation. And the other big one is Parasite SEO 2.0. The old method of using, say, local newspaper sites is getting filtered out. The new method is to buy old, aged user accounts, 5, 10 years old on trusted platforms. Reddit, Quora, GitHub.
Why are old Reddit accounts suddenly so valuable?
Because the LLMs are drowning in new synthetic content.
Oh.
So to ground their answers in some kind of reality, they're giving a huge disproportionate weight to historical user-generated content from profiles with real tenure. A comment from a Reddit account created in 2015 has more authority to the AI than a brand new, perfectly written article on a new website. They're trusting the tenure of the human over the polish of the potentially machine-generated content.
The trust metric has completely flipped from the domain to the individual's history. Okay, which brings us perfectly to measurement.
Yeah.
We started this by saying ranking is dead. So how do we measure success now? What's the KPI?
We need a new metric. It's called share of model, or SUM.
Okay, define that for us.
Share of model measures how often your brand is cited or recommended when someone asks an LLM an open question. For example, what are the best CRM tools for small businesses? SOM is the percentage of time your brand shows up in that generated answer.
But if the answer is synthetic and potentially different every single time, how on earth do you track that? You can't just use a normal rank tracker.
You absolutely can't. Tracking some requires new LLM monitoring tools. These are basically scripts that hit the AI's ChatGPT, Gemini hundreds of times with slight variations of a prompt to see what comes back. And you have to remember, the AI's response is probabilistic. You might show up 80% of the time, not 100%. So the goal is to maximize that probability through what we call semantic saturation, getting your brand mentioned everywhere in trusted third-party sources through things like digital PR.
So we've moved from optimizing for clicks to optimizing for extraction, for actionability, and for authentic human proof. We're not just marketing to users anymore. We're structuring our entire digital presence to feed the machine so it can answer for us.
Exactly. And if these autonomous agents are becoming the primary way people consume information and make choices, and our main success metric is share of model, well, that leaves a pretty big question for you to think about. Is the next frontier of strategy not about marketing to users at all, but about marketing to the digital assistants who now make their choices for them?